Hello everybody, my name is Freddie Bender. I am a drag artist in New York City, and today this is going to be a get ready with me makeup tutorial type of vibe in the format of a video essay applying queer theory to the show The Boulet Brothers Dragula. And I'm really excited, so I hope you guys enjoy. So as you guys can see, I'm starting at the base of my face now, which is basically just using a lot of materials and liquid foundations and concealers. So while I do this, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about Dragula. So if you don't know what Dragula is, it is a reality competition drag show that is hosted and created and everything by the Boulet Brothers. And they have been a huge influence in queer nightlife for a long time. They host some of the best parties. They are two drag queens that have they've been partners for, I think, the past like 20 years at least. They are not brothers. And they just are very like subversive drag performers that really focus on horror and filth and glamour. So that's why they created the show. And the show runs similar to other drag competition series where there's a series of challenges that might have to do with acting or, you know, lip syncing, performing, all these different things. And their looks, obviously, they do the competitors do a floor show. And if you're in the bottom two, instead of doing something where you have to lip sync, you actually do an extermination challenge that focuses on like facing a fear. So some of the fears are a little more like fun, where they've done like a roach tube where you have to like blow a roach, try and get it into the other person's mouth. But other ones are like literally terrifying, having to like pierce yourself, get tattoos, jump out of planes. Like it's just absolutely crazy. And so they focus on really facing that element of your fear. And if you do the best in the extermination, you get to stay. And the winner wins a cash prize, which is amazing. So this show is absolutely insane. It's one of my favorite shows ever, and it's what made me want to start doing drag. And right now I look like Uncle Fester from the Addams Family. Hi. But next I'm gonna be doing my contour and all that stuff, so woohoo. So there's a common misconception that all drag artistry is being a drag queen, because that is like the most well-known way to perform drag, the most mainstream way to perform drag. That's what most people know and associate drag with, but that's not true. And the Boulets do a really great job of incorporating that into their show. So their show does not only allow, you know, cis gay men who are drag queens. They allow all types of drag performers, including like non-binary performers, AFAB performers, people who are drag queens, drag kings, drag things, just drag artists, like anything like that. And this is like even subversive for queer culture itself, because there's a lot of stigma, even like in our New York drag community, by not being, you know, a traditional quote unquote drag queen. You know, drag kings and things have a harder time getting booked, and there's like a very different culture surrounding being a king or a thing or both. And so this show, because of the nature of it, that it is this kind of like subversive horror show that doesn't just focus on being like pretty, it's about being glamorous and filthy and really celebrating that. They also allow everybody who has art to show to the world, and I think that that's really beautiful. So here I am doing my absolutely gutted contour that probably can't be considered art. I am not a makeup artist. I get by. So I'm going to be blending out this contour and doing my highlight, and then I will be back looking a little bit better than this. Still not good yet, but a little bit better. So now while I am baking my face and kind of setting my face with setting powder, I'm going to talk a little bit about, I know it's hard to take me seriously like this, but hang in there. I'm going to talk about a little bit of Dugan's ideas of homonormativity and how this can apply to Dragula, or in a way, how Dragula is subverting this idea of homonormativity. So first of all, what is the new homonormativity? In her essay, Dugan says, quote, the new normativity, it is a politics that does not contest dominant heteronormative assumptions and institutions, but upholds and sustains them while promising the possibility of a demobilized gay constituency and a privatized, depoliticized gay culture anchored in domesticity and consumption, And this is on page 179 of The New Normativity by Lisa Dugan. So what on earth does that mean? That's a lot of jargon. Basically, it's the idea that homonormativity is like heteronormativity, but for gay people. It is this palatable way of being gay that is conforming to heterosexual ideas, and capitalistic ideas, which is just, okay, you're gay, so you have to be monogamous, you have to be in a relationship, and then you have kids, and you have a job that contributes to capitalism and to be a functioning member of society. How does this fit in to Dragula? Well, Dragula is kind of subverting these ideas of homonormativity. So homonormativity is a byproduct of neoliberalism and identity politics. The homonormative expectations are those in which queer people are expected to conform to a palatable standard for a heterosexual audience. In this way, queerness is meant to occupy like the same space as being non-queer in society. They're meant to participate in capitalism, have successful jobs, create the nuclear family, only with a queer couple. Dragula counters this homonormative standard with the filth and unabashedly like queer culture that it really sticks up for and represents. Unlike other drag competition programs, which can be criticized for appealing to straight audiences, Dragula doesn't tone itself down for any sort of palatability. It's unabashedly queer, horrible, horrific, ridiculous, and like does not care about these sorts of taboos in order to appeal to a straight audience. And now I'm gonna put on some blush and I'm gonna start my eyebrows and my eyeshadow. Woohoo! I put my eyebrows on without you guys because I can barely do them when I'm not talking to a camera. They say that your eyebrows are supposed to be sisters and not twins, and I think that mine like passed each other on the subway once. Like they never ever look remotely correct. But that's okay. That's not what we're gonna worry about right now. You know what we are gonna worry about? Queer monstrosity. That's called a transition from Freddie Bender over here. So with the idea of queer monstrosity, we're going to look at Harry Benshoff's article, The Monster and the Homosexual, in the Monster Theory Reader. And this article describes queerness as monstrosity and the inherent queerness in horror monsters. And this is something that is like super obviously clear on the Boulet Brothers Dragula. You know, their pillars are horror and filth and like being this monster, and a lot of challenges have to do with portraying an iconic horror monster or just like taking some sort of monstrosity into your floor show, into your drag artistry and your interpretation of it. So let's like dive in a little bit on what Benshoff really means by this. Monstrous and queer drag is centered on this show revolving around iconic horror archetypes. The performances are usually sexual. They don't have to be sexual, but there is this element of kind of tackling the sexual or taboo things that a lot of queens or performers will go for on this show. And as well as like horror and graphic special effects that we don't usually associate with like drag. We associate that with like special effects and horror, but this is kind of incorporated together. Special effects and drag can sometimes really go hand in hand. Monstrosity is centered on the program and encouraged in order for like the true self-expression and freedom to be achieved by the artist. The article doesn't only apply to the actual challenges, it applies a lot to the exterminations. So earlier I kind of talked about how the exterminations are designed to be kind of like these fears that are tackled. And why are we even tackling fear on a drag show? Like on a show about art, that doesn't really make any sense. If you're pushing these boundaries of being othered, of being a monster, and like tackling these fears, there's nothing else to be afraid of. It really unravels a lot of aspects of your personality. So Benshoff says that some earlier writing on the links between cinematic horror and homosexuality used the Freudian model of repression as a theoretical rubric. So in Margaret Tarrett's groundbreaking essay of the early 1970s, Monsters from the Id, she's looking at how the Hollywood monster movies of the 1950s and persuasively postulated that the monster represented an eruption of repressed sexual desire. And that is a quote from page 227 of Benshoff's The Monster and the Homosexual. Sorry, I'm holding makeup as I do this. So again, what does that mean? We're looking at a theory concept and really trying to apply it to this show. I'm so bad at eyeliner, so you guys are in for a trip for a real one, but it's okay because we are talking about Judith Butler, who is like one of like the most well-known theorists, I would say, across the board. And today we're going to be talking specifically about her ideas of gender performity and how this can relate to Dragula. And when you think about gender performity, you know, it's the idea of like performing your gender, but when she's talking about it, it's not in a way that we would expect. It's not in the way that you're like literally performing gender because you're a drag performer, and that's what a lot of drag is about. It's something a little bit different. So on page 313 of Imitation Gender Subordination, Judith Butler says that drag constitutes the mundane way in which genders are appropriated, theatricalized, okay, vocabulary, theatricalized, worn and done, and implies that all gendering is a kind of impersonation, approximation. Like I said, that's Butler, and that's kind of the idea that like where all gender is drag. So what she's saying here is that if that's what's being implied, then there is no basis for gender, which like, okay, cool, we got it. But it kind of goes deeper that on a theoretical level, because again, we're dealing in queer theory here. Continuing to talk about Judith Butler and gender insubordination, gender expression, we have to look at her theories of gender expression and performance and how they can apply to Dragula, because the show transforms what gender expression is meant to be and look like, even in drag. Monstrosity is mixed with sexuality and traditional gender expressions of masculinity and femininity. Butler identifies where heteronormativity and traditional gender expression plays into how gender is imitated and expressed in our everyday lives. Dragula itself as a program is unabashedly queer, unabashedly, you know, mixes gender with monstrosity, with sexuality, with everything, and with drag. Okay, so it calls out these aspects of expected heteronormativity, as well as addressing that gender can literally be performed in drag when we're like subverting what gender is meant to be. And if you're looking at traditional drag, which is usually seen as a man dressing up as a woman, you know, you're performing gender in a way, performing these stereotypes, performing these expectations. But on a theoretical level, gender is put upon as the production of oneself. So you're going, you know, on this show to perform gender in the means of like being a monster, in the means of, you know, being in these extermination challenges. It doesn't matter if you're doing traditional drag. It doesn't matter if you're a drag king. It doesn't matter if you're a drag thing. There's this gender performance that is being called out no matter what on this program. So as I wrap up this sort of video essay talking about the Boulet Brothers Dragula and subversion of homonormativity, there are some things that should still be addressed that are counterclaims to what I'm talking about, which is the fact that you do still win money if you're on this show. The show is still like a competitiveness of art and this like capitalist production, which should not be ignored. I wouldn't say it's a flaw of the show, you know, because we live in this capitalistic society, winning money is a really big deal, and it helps especially artists like survive. So there is nothing wrong with that, but it does still play into this idea of capitalism. Well guys, this is the final look. I put on my favorite wig because everyone knows I love this wig. I'm going for the 70s grunge glam rock fantasy over here. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video. This is my first time really taking a crack at doing a video essay type of thing, so let me know if you want some more of this, because like queer theory is something that I really enjoy studying. And I hope that, you know, this was an interesting, educational, and fun video to kind of talk about the Boulet Brothers Dragula and how the theories of like Benshoff and Butler, as well as Lisa Dugan, really can apply to this fantastic show and maybe get you to watch it if you haven't watched it, or if you've never seen a drag tutorial of sorts, now you have. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will catch you for the next video.